Yeah, so my apologies in advance for this terrible lighting. I was going to film a video today, and then God was like, I'm just gonna make it hard for you, so life's great, everybody. Happy New Year, everyone! Since the new year just happens to be starting on a Friday this time around, I decided today's video should be at least vaguely related to the new year and new beginnings. Emphasis on vaguely. The point is, the new year is about new beginnings and looking forward to what's to come. And Rick Riordan knows how to start off his books, that's for sure. My personal favorite book beginnings are the Trials of Apollo ones, because they're hilarious. I believe in returning dead bodies. When our dragon declared war in Indiana, I knew it was going to be a bad day. When traveling through Washington, D.C., one expects to see a few snakes in human clothing. So yeah, today's video is the top 10 beginnings of books in the Riordanverse. Some are funny, some are just really cool and intriguing. One is very sad. So let's get into it. 10. I believe in returning dead bodies. It seems like a simple courtesy, doesn't it? A warrior dies, you should do what you can to get their body back to their people for funerary rites. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. I am over 4,000 years old. But I find it rude not to properly dispose of corpses. Achilles during the Trojan War, for instance. Total pig. He chariot dragged the body of the Trojan champion Hector across the walls of the city for days. Finally, I convinced Zeus to pressure the big bully into returning Hector's body to his parents so he could have a decent burial. I mean, come on. Have a little respect for the people you slaughter. Then there was Oliver Cromwell's corpse. I wasn't a fan of the man, but please. First, the English bury him with honors. Then they decide they hate him, so they dig up and execute his body. Then his head falls off the pike where it's been impaled for decades and gets passed around from collector to collector for almost 3 centuries like a disgusting souvenir snow globe. Finally, in 1960, I whispered in the ears of some influential people, "Enough already! I'm the god Apollo and I order you to bury that thing! You're grossing me out!" The beginnings will get better from here on out, I promise. But come on! Apollo's hilarious! The fact that Rick Riordan actually thought it was a good idea to type this out and write it on the first page of the Tyrant's Tomb is hilarious. Whether it was actually a good idea or not is debatable, but it is really funny. And starting a book this way definitely strikes me as a very Apollo thing to do. It's also a great way to teach kids some messed up history while still keeping it entertaining. And I'm sure history geeks or Greek mythology geeks who already knew the things Apollo was talking about here were roaring in laughter when they read this. This beginning doesn't really have much to it other than being hilarious, but you can't deny it definitely succeeds at that. It kind of reminds me of when YouTubers start off a video on a tangent that's only half related to the actual topic of the video to add some humor or just a little FYI and then use it to transition into the actual topic of the video. 9. Sadie Kane here. If you're listening to this, congratulations! You survived Doomsday! I'd like to apologize straight away for any inconvenience the end of the world may have caused you. The earthquakes, rebellions, riots, tornadoes, floods, tsunamis, and of course the giant snake who swallowed the sun. I'm afraid most of that was our fault. Carter and I decided we should at least explain how it happened. This will probably be our last recording. By the time you've heard our story, the reason for that will be obvious. Our problems started in Dallas when the fire-breathing sheep destroyed the King Tut exhibit. This beginning's just great. It's got humor, it gives you an impression of what's to come for the Kane siblings, and it's cool enough to hook you and make you intrigued to read the story. In addition, of course, it's awesome how the first thing Sadie does in this book is congratulate you on surviving Doomsday as if you just won the lottery. 8. I hope I'm getting extra credit for this. A publisher in New York asked me to write down what I know about the Greek gods, and I was like, can we do this anonymously? Because I don't need the Olympians mad at me again, but if it helps you to know your Greek gods and survive an encounter with them if ever they show up in your face, then I guess writing all this down will be my good deed for the week. If you don't know me, my name is Percy Jackson. I'm a modern-day demigod, half mortal son of Poseidon, but I'm not going to say much about myself. My story's already been written down in some books that are total fiction. Yeah, right. Instance number 1 of Percy kicking off a book by being annoyed and so done, but writes said book anyway for the purpose of the greater good. Percy Jackson's Greek gods has such a great beginning. In classic Percy style, the first bit of this book convinces you to keep reading despite Percy's obvious hatred of having to write this book. He flat out tells you, hey kids, today we're going to talk about the golden age of cannibalism, death, apocalypse, and a bunch of other really messed up stuff, and I am warning you now that you will puke while reading. And he somehow still convinces you to keep reading. 7. Look. I'm only in this for the pizza. The publisher was like, oh, you did such a good job writing about the Greek gods. We want you to write another book about the ancient Greek heroes. And I was like, guys, I'm dyslexic. It's hard enough for me to read books. Then they promised me a year's supply of free pepperoni pizza, plus all the blue jelly beans I could eat. I sold out. I guess it's cool. If you're looking to fight monsters yourself, these stories might help you avoid some common mistakes, like staring Medusa in the face or buying a used mattress from any dude named Krusty. Instance number 2 of Percy kicking off a book by being annoyed and so done, but writes said book anyway, this time for the sake of pizza. Much more realistic motivation. If the first sentence of a book is your narrator telling you he's only writing this because he's been bribed with pizza, you know you're in for a good time. I feel like this was Rick Riordan's rage fuel when he realized how long and challenging it would be to turn The Lightning Thief from a bedtime story to his son into a 350-page novel. 6. We only have a few hours, so listen carefully. If you're hearing this story, you're already in danger. Sadie and I might be your only chance. Go to the school. Find the locker. I won't tell you which school or which locker, because if you're the right person, you'll find it. The combination is 13, 32, 33. By the time you finish listening, you'll know what those numbers mean. Just remember the story we're about to tell you isn't complete yet. How it ends will depend on you. Behold the Chronicles' second entry on this list. This one's just so epic because it's Carter and Sadie calling out for you to help them defeat Apophis, and it just incentivizes you perfectly to read the rest of the book and learn what the heck they're talking about. Also, I think it's hilarious how Carter so ominously tells you, you'll learn what those numbers mean when we're done. Like, it's so relevant and important, but it's really just the names of his favorite basketball players. 5. No. I refuse to share this part of my story. It was the lowest, most humiliating, most awful week in my 4,000 plus years of life. Tragedy, disaster, heartbreak. I will not tell you about it. Why are you still here? Go away! But alas, I suppose I have no choice. Doubtless, Zeus expects me to tell you the story as part of my punishment. It's not enough that he turned me, the once divine and fabulous Apollo, into a mortal teenager with acne, flab, and the Elias Lester Papadopoulos. It's not enough that he sent me on a dangerous quest to liberate 5 great ancient oracles from a trio of evil Roman emperors. It's not even enough that he enslaved me, his formerly favorite son, to a pushy 12-year-old demigod named Meg. On top of that, Zeus wants you to record my shame for posterity. Very well, but I have warned you. In these pages, only suffering awaits. Listen, I said this is going to be a list of the top 10 Riordanverse beginnings. I didn't say you'd necessarily want to hear them all. And it's not like you can say Apollo did a poor job summarizing what was going to happen in this book. Were you guys at all prepared when you read The Burning Maze? How much of a horrible thing did you expect to happen when Apollo gave you this warning? Was it anything close to what actually ended up happening? Let's just take a moment to acknowledge how many warnings Rick Riordan gives us right from the get-go about how something completely awful is going to happen in this book. The dedication in the book is even to the Muse of Tragedy, saying, I hope you're happy with yourself. You really can't say he didn't warn us. 4. Yeah, I know. You guys are gonna read about how I died in agony, and you're gonna be like, wow, that sounds so cool, Magnus. Can I die in agony too? No. Just no. Don't go jumping off any rooftops, don't run into the highway or set yourself on fire. It doesn't work that way. You will not end up where I ended up. Besides, you wouldn't want to deal with my situation. Unless you've got some crazy desire to see undead warriors hacking one another to pieces, swords flying up giants' noses, and dark elves in snappy outfits, you shouldn't even think about finding the wolf-headed doors. My name is Magnus Chase. I'm 16 years old. This is the story of how my life went downhill after I got myself killed. Welp! Magnus Chase is certainly not one to sugarcoat his situation. You read this introduction to the trilogy thinking it was false, or at the very least exaggerated. Like, Magnus didn't actually die in this book if he's the protagonist, right? Yes, he did, and the majority of the trilogy is about his adventures in the Norse pagan afterlife. It's also hilarious because he so purposefully phrases it as, you're gonna read this story and want to die in agony, and you're gonna think it's so much fun! Side note, do the Norse gods have any way of helping demigods before they die? Like, the Camp Halfblood of the Norse is Hotel Valhalla, but you only go there after you die. So what do the alive Norse demigods do if they're not Valkyries like Sam? 3. My name is Apollo. I used to be a god. Sometimes the best beginnings are the simplest, my friends. This is one interesting way to start off the Trials of Apollo. Out of context, this is very strange. Within the world of Camp Halfblood, it's just another addition to the huge universe of pure confusion and weirdness. I sometimes wonder how weird it would be for someone to read the Trials of Apollo books first, like before Percy Jackson and the Olympians or Heroes of Olympus. How purely confused would they be? 2. Carter here. Look. We don't have time for long introductions. I need to tell this story quickly or we're all going to die. If you didn't listen to our first recording, well, pleased to meet you. The Egyptian gods are running around loose in the modern world. A bunch of magicians called the House of Life is trying to stop them. Everyone hates Sadie and me, and a big snake is about to swallow the sun and destroy the world. The Kane Chronicles officially have all 3 of their books featured on this list. Come on guys, let's give the Kane books a bit more appreciation. They're pretty cool. This beginning has everything. It's funny, it's intense, it's straight to the point. I don't know, I feel like the beginning of Throne of Fire just perfectly blends humor and setting the stakes. Because it's explained that the reason they're making these recordings and turning them into transcripts is to recruit magicians for the 21st Gnome, there's this sense of urgency at both the beginning and the end. This sense of, we need your help to save the world, and that's why these books even exist. And that's a pretty cool way to set the tone of the story. 1. Look. I didn't want to be a half-blood. If you're reading this because you think it might be one, my advice is, close this book right now, believe whatever lie your mom or dad told you about your birth, and try to lead a normal life. Being a half-blood is dangerous. It's scary. Most of the time, it gets you killed in painful, nasty ways. If you're a normal kid reading this because you think it's fiction, great. Read on. I envy you for being able to believe none of this ever happened. But if you recognize yourself in these pages, if you feel something stirring inside, stop reading immediately. You might be one of us. And once you know that, it's only a matter of time before they sense it too. And they'll come for you. Don't say I didn't warn you. Percy's dire warning that absolutely none of us listened to. This is definitely the sort of beginning that gives you chills and, well, let's be honest. Thanks to these opening paragraphs, we all knew most demigods die before adulthood, but I don't think many of us actually expected Rick Riordan to follow through with his implied promise in this beginning of breaking all of our hearts by killing off so many characters. What I love is how much time Percy, not only in these paragraphs, but throughout the entire franchise, spends telling mortals they should be grateful that they're not demigods, and telling those who suspect to be demigods that they should pray they're wrong. Telling us all, his world is dangerous. We need to stay away from it, and be glad we're not a part of it. While our entire fandom casually ignores him and glorifies and worships the possibility of being a demigod as if it's blue food. Also, if and when I get to hear Percy saying, "Look, I didn't want to be a half-blood on television," I'm pretty sure I'm gonna reach a peak of fangirling. Just saying. Anyways guys, that's it for the top 10 beginnings of the Riordanverse, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!